Hi everyone, welcome to Friday Reflections at Clarisen. This is the first video in a series of videos that we will be releasing each week. Today, why don't we kick off with a topic that's of high interest to us at Clarisen and we know is of interest to many families that we speak to. We all want to know answers to these same questions, which are: why do we eat the way we do? And are poor dietary choices always our own fault? Let's begin. Many of us have at least some awareness of national dietary guidelines for most nutrients. A lot of health experts and influencers tell us how much protein we should be eating daily, how much fiber. We know about portion sizes, calories, good and bad foods. A lot of us follow special diets where there are certain foods that we avoid and certain foods that we place more emphasis on, that it becomes much harder to imagine that our bodies might have internal self-regulatory mechanisms that help us instinctively know how much and what we should be eating daily. Think about this. Animals, when allowed to do so, eat by instinct. Why would we not be able to do the same? If our bodies have internal regulatory systems for water and oxygen intake, for regulating body temperature and blood pressure, and nearly every other physiological variable, why would there not be an internal regulatory system for regulating nutritional intake? A number of exceptionally smart and curious people, starting with Clara Davis, a Chicago-based pediatrician who in 1920s began her attempts to answer this very question by recruiting breastfed children into her laboratory. And she found that children, when allowed to do so, they are able to instinctively know what they should eat in order to maintain optimal body composition and nutritional intake. But this does not always seem to be the case. It might be easier to answer this question for those who regularly consume ultra-processed foods, and we know this widely cited statistic that in countries like England and the US, the wide majority of the population consume ultra-processed foods every day. But what do you make of people who, and by the way, I used to be that person. I used to eat ultra-processed foods every single day without giving it a second thought, without thinking that those foods were potentially undermining my metabolic health in any way. But what do you make of those people who stick to clean diet and they still occasionally report experiencing cravings for sugary foods, comfort foods, foods that are dramatically low in nutritional value but much higher in calories relative to alternatives that they would normally eat? And this makes you wonder, why would that be the case? If they're eating clean diet, their bodies should be able to instinctively regulate their cravings in a way that serves their bodies in the best way. So what's going on? I've spent some time looking at the literature, and here's what I found. Chronic stress is one of those things that increases cravings for unhealthy foods by promoting reward-seeking behavior and activating brain regions involved in habit-forming responses, which overlap with those implicated in addiction. Over time, regular consumption of these foods can further reinforce these neurological adaptations and lower one's preference for healthier alternatives. Other factors like sleep deprivation and certain environmental factors could further amplify these interactions. There is also strong evidence for the role of gut microbiome, which shows that gut bacteria produce signaling molecules that influence the gut-brain axis, thereby shaping appetite and cravings, sometimes in a direction that does not serve the host's overall health. Disrupted or imbalanced gut microbiomes, typically linked to high intake of Western-style diets rich in processed foods, are associated with increased risk of compulsive eating and cravings for calorie-dense, nutrient-poor foods. Some bacteria thrive on fats and sugars, and their expansion may literally push hosts to eat more of their preferred substrates, perpetuating unhealthy dietary choices. We would love to know what you all think of this. Share your thoughts in the comments.